Good morning, everyone. I'm calling this hearing to order. For the record, my name is Kendra Lara, and I'm District 6 City Councilor, and I am the chair of the Boston City Council Committee on Environmental Justice, Resiliency, and Parks. I'm joined this morning by my council colleague, Councilor at Large Michael Flaherty. This hearing is being recorded. It's being live streamed at boston.gov/city-council-TV and broadcast on Xfinity Channel 8, RCN Channel 82, and FiOS Channel 964. Today's hearing is on dockets number 0116 and docket number 0117. Docket 0116, message and order authorizing the City of Boston to accept and expend the amount of $1,633,500 in the form of a grant for the Resilient Moakley Connectors, awarded by the Federal Emergency Management Agency, passed through the Massachusetts Emergency Management Agency to be administered by the Environment Department. The grant will fund pre-construction planning and design activities in the northern and southern areas adjacent to Moakley Park, located along the waterfront of Dorchester and South Boston neighborhoods. The project is separate but complementary to the flood mitigation project within Moakley Park. And docket number 0117, a message and order authorizing the City of Boston to accept and expend the amount of $870,000 in the form of a grant for climate resilience awarded by the Barr Foundation to be administered by the Environment Department. The grant will fund the continued implementation of climate-ready Boston initiatives. This includes advancing coastal resilient and heat resiliency strategies, prioritizing equitable electrification, and creating a community tree care program. If you're here with us in the chamber, please sign up on the sheet near the chamber entrance to give public testimony. And if you're interested in testifying virtually, please email Megan Kavanaugh at megan.kavanaugh@boston.gov for the link. From the administration, we are joined this morning with the Commissioner of the Environment Department, Allison Brizius. Did I pronounce that correctly, Commissioner? Thank you. And so I would also like to read into the record a letter of absence from my colleague, Councilor at Large Aaron Murphy. Dear Chair Lara, I'm writing to inform you of my absence during today's City Council hearing on dockets number 0116 and 0117. A representative from my staff will be listening in and following up with me. I look forward to reviewing the footage and following up as needed. I sincerely regret that I could not attend the hearing this morning, as I made prior commitments that I must keep. Thank you, Aaron Murphy, Boston City Councilor at Large. I would like to turn the floor over to my colleague, Mike Flaherty, for any opening remarks before we hear from the administration.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and look forward to obviously the presentation and just have concerns as it pertains to the climate resilient efforts around Moakley Park and the community's concerns around some, I guess, preliminary discussions, or folks had mentioned that the potential for Day Boulevard to be sort of taken off the grid completely. I know that we had attended an event with our U.S. senators last, I believe it was sort of, might have been late summer, early fall. Congressman Lynch, Senator Collins, Representative Beal, Council President Flynn, Council Baker, myself, along with our U.S. senators, talking about climate resiliency in that part of the world, and all efforts, and particularly the funds that Congressman Lynch has been able to secure down in Washington. I want to make it clear that any discussion of removing Day Boulevard, taking that off the grid, is a non-starter for the community. But the community doesn't feel like there's been enough public discussion about it. They know that there's been some meetings around Moakley Park initiatives, and they've been more sort of charrettes. But we're going to need to have a neighborhood-wide community meeting as it pertains to Moakley and it pertains to Day Boulevard, just so we can give folks the assurances that that main artery in and out of the community as it connects to K Circle and also Morrissey Boulevard will remain intact for whatever the next 100+ years. So anyways, just curious to see what these two grants do. They total $2.5+ million, and would like to kind of, in your presentation, I would really like to get to know a little bit more about the Barr Foundation's role in this. Clearly, we appreciate the partnership and their contribution, but want to make sure that they're not driving the bus, that the neighborhood, the community is driving the bus at all times. So anyways, thank you, Madam Chair, and look forward to the discussion this morning.
Thank you, Councilor Flaherty, and thank you so much, Commissioner, for being here today. I think that, especially as a coastal city, we really need to start putting in the elbow grease to make sure that we're resilient, but that we're also really responding to the areas where they're going to be hit the hardest by climate change. And I think that this area around the Dorchester and South Boston waterfront is really ripe for a redesign. And so I'm excited to hear more about these grants, and you now have the floor.
Absolutely. Thank you, Councilor Lara. Thank you, Councilor Flaherty. Good to be with you both today. As you said, my name is Allison Brizius, and I'm the Environment Commissioner for the City of Boston. And I'm here today, as you said, because the City of Boston has been selected to receive 2 grants. The first grant is called the Resilient Moakley Connectors project. And that, as you noted, Councilor Flaherty, is a project that has been secured by our congressional delegation with their help. It's a roughly $1.65 million earmark from the FY22 congressionally directed spending program from the FEMA pre-disaster mitigation program. And it's really intended to help Boston extend the implementation of coastal infrastructure both to the north and south of Moakley Park. It is complementary to a existing second project that is going through another FEMA grant program for the core resilience measures that are in Moakley Park and that would run throughout the park. This part of the project is going to be a collaboration between the City of Boston, all the community members that you noted, as well as the Massachusetts Department of Conservation and Recreation and the Massachusetts Water Reclamation Resources Authority, the MWRA, because they are key landholders and holders of critical infrastructure adjacent to Moakley Park. It builds on a number of years of community engagement and work to develop coastal resilience solutions that will help Boston prepare for the effects of climate change. And this specific grant is intended to be for over the next 2 to 3 year period to advance the project with additional community engagement, extensive community engagement through from the initial concept designs that have been developed through the Coastal Resilience Solutions for Dorchester and South Boston projects and the Moakley Park Planning Project, the whole way through to pre-construction and design documents for just those elements to the north and southern ends of the park. It's really specifically looking at the coastal line of defense, so protecting against coastal storms with sea level rise and storm surge. But you were right to note that there are a number of parallel and very connected studies that are also going on with MassDOT for the K-Circle and Morrissey area. And so there will be tight coordination with those projects as well as with the core Moakley Park Resilience Project. The second grant, as you noted from the Barr Foundation, is intended to continue supporting our ongoing efforts to increase climate resilience across the city through the Climate Ready Boston Initiative. This grant will increase our team's capacity over the next 3 years to accelerate implementation across a number of Climate Ready Boston and coastal resilience fronts. So in addition to accelerating the work on the coastal resilience, we want to be looking at these issues holistically and also accelerating our heat resilience and our energy resilience work and increasing our urban tree canopy. So those are really some of the core priority projects that this is intended to support. It's mainly intended to support staff capacity to implement these projects and also to support community work in the space to partner with us on accelerating equitable implementation of flood protection infrastructure, measures that have been identified in these coastal resilience plans that we've recently completed. As I mentioned, sustainable growth of the urban forest as part of long-term heat and stormwater mitigation, and then the integration of heat and energy resilience efforts to prepare our vulnerable communities and their critical infrastructure for the increasing extreme heat risk, including strain on the electricity grid. And really, particularly in that area, through community partnership, we're looking to focus on strategic deployment of distributed energy resources in areas that are community priorities and known spots of grid congestion. So I'd be happy to take any questions, and thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. I'd like to begin with the first round of questions, sure. And I will turn the floor over to my colleague, Councilor Flaherty, for his questions, and then I will have some from my own. Councilor Flaherty, you have the floor.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. I guess borrow an old boxing phrase from when I grew up boxing as a kid, and best defense is a good offense, right? So we're playing and we're doing things inland Has any thought been given to going out and sort of building a breakwater or sort of building a wall? We're blessed in terms of how we're located, and we have all the harbor islands, and there's specific and real opportunity, expensive, but if you're thinking, this is just off the top of my head, we're 2.5 million, just sort of, we're doing some studies, and and this is to protect inland, I guess, is there any thought to going outland, if you will, go out and where it's going to happen and cut it off before, kind of cut it off at the legs there, if you will, and has any thought been given to, in a way to protect, obviously, the coastal portions of East Boston, downtown North End, Charlestown, waterfront, South Boston, Dorchester. So in addition to the Barr Foundation and the work that you're doing with the Environment Department, has anyone given thought to taking it to the water, if you will, as opposed to sort of sitting back? We're playing defense, waiting for something to happen and/or making adjustments that arguably could be catastrophic and/or sort of wipe out neighborhoods potentially and/or our transportation network. I mean, you think about the area you're talking about, it directly abuts the Red Line, which is a main transportation conduit, as is I-93, Day Boulevard, we just discussed a minute ago, Morrissey Boulevard. South Boston is a peninsula, and there's only a couple ways in and out, Day Boulevard being one of them, Old Colony Ave, Dorchester Ave, and then L Street and Summer Street, frankly. So you start cutting off those arteries, you basically choke off the neighborhood, and you choke off industry, and you choke off transportation nexus. So I guess any thought in your sphere as to taking it to the water and preventing sort of, the catastrophic potential, as opposed to we're playing defense and we're sort of making adjustments inland, when I think we should, my personal opinion, we should be going out and dealing with it before it hits the shores, as opposed to dealing with it when it hits the shores. Completely, maybe it's a different mindset, but we've seen it, and we've seen the devastation in other parts of the country with levees and breakwaters and things like that. Are we doing that? Is that part of this discussion? And when will we undertake those efforts?
Absolutely. Thank you, Councilor. That is absolutely a topic that we are thinking about every day here in the city. Starting with the Climate Ready Boston 2016 Comprehensive Citywide Vulnerability Assessment, we looked at a layered approach to resilience for the city, so that we were looking what should be done in the water, at the coastal edge, further inland, and how do we build layers of resilience so that we're protecting ourselves in the instance that one item doesn't work or isn't there yet. So we want to build it. I mean, resilience is the belt and suspenders strategy. So after that comprehensive vulnerability study, we started a series of what have now been 5 neighborhood plans that look at the coastal edge of all 47 miles of Boston's coast, neighborhood by neighborhood, starting in East Boston and Charlestown at some of our earliest flood pathways, and then working our way through South Boston, the Seaport, downtown, Dorchester, and then back to the rest of the areas of East Boston and Charlestown that were not completed in that first study in 2017. That final set of plans for East Boston and Charlestown has come through in August of this year. So we really have a plan built with community to look at how we take advantage of our coastal edge right there at the water to build resilient infrastructure that is effective in those storms, but also maintains a green and accessible coastline that our residents can enjoy. And so projects like this Moakley Connectors and the Moakley Park project that I just mentioned, as well as the recent work in Langone and Popolo, in Martins Park and in McConnell Park, are us implementing on that plan to build that elevated, more resilient coastal edge in those critical flood pathway areas. And so our plan is to work through that set of coastline plans with the community, informed by the prioritization of where the flood pathways are expected to come first, with our state and federal partners, because a lot of this work, and our neighboring municipality partners, because a lot of this work can't be done alone and crosses those boundaries, to really make sure that we are proactively protecting the city and the coastline and not obviously our homes, but also our critical infrastructure, as you mentioned, our transportation corridors, our transit, our businesses, all of those elements. We did, as part of that process, do a very comprehensive study around a coastal harbor-wide barrier. That study came through the UMass Boston. I'm happy to share it with you. And it had partners across the city and the state and the universities and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers participated in that project. And it concluded that a harbor barrier out near the harbor islands didn't make sense right now, mainly because even with it, for a storm, it wouldn't solve the problem of sea level rise on the coast. And we would still need to do the coastal protection that we're undertaking now in addition to that barrier. Now, we're going to continue to revisit that as we do regularly, revisit all of the science around the flood pathways. But right now, what that concluded is either way, we need to do this coastal line of defense. And so that's what we're working to implement actively right now through these grants and through other partnerships that we've been building.
And knowing that my house will probably be the first one to go, right, if anything ever
I hope not,
happens,
Counselor.
I would prefer that we be having full-blown discussions on levees and breakwaters. We know where we're vulnerable. What we don't know is, we don't know the size of the storm, we don't know the amount of precipitation, we don't know the tide, we don't know the moon. So those are all big factors, which is when you see, say, Morrissey Boulevard, when that gets flooded, or when Day Boulevard, has to get shut down. But those are sort of the things I think about. It's like I tend to think we're sort of playing defense. To your point, we know we're vulnerable and we're sort of trying to make those adjustments inland. I really think we need it, because the longer we wait, the more expensive it's going to get, Madam Chair. It's a big number. Any discussion about, with the Army Corps of Engineers to do a levee out around our harbor islands, I can't even imagine, the price tag on it right now in 2023. We start addressing this in 33, or, who knows who was going to be around in 43 or whatever. The price tag is just going to go up. I think that we should be doing them in tandem. Well, if we're going to make some inland preparations, but I think we really got to go right at it, punch it right in the nose, and take it to them. And that's going to have to be full-blown levee and breakwater discussions sooner rather than later, so we can prevent that devastation inland. And we all know where those areas are. But we can never predict the storm, the size of the storm, the time of year the storm comes in, and also factoring in tides and moon. Those are the two variables that that can make it, oh geez, it just missed us, versus it really crushed us. So. And those are the ones where you look at other areas. In addition to keeping our chair in the loop on stuff, if you can engage the district council is specifically in those two districts, District 2 and District 3, in District 1, where a lot of these efforts are going to be undertaken. Nothing worse than coming out of a coffee shop and being asked, hey, what's going on with this? Or, hey, did you hear about that? So, and then obviously having a neighborhood-wide meeting to engage the broader community that will be impacted on a number of different fronts. So I know there's been some meetings, and they've been sort of maybe smaller, I would call them sort of charrettes down around the park, but there needs to be, I think, a sort of a more broader discussion with the community as to what's in store, where those areas are, what the plans are underway. And I think you will be met with, hey, why aren't we taking it out to the water and addressing it before it comes inland, and hopefully we can start to have a meaningful discussion and start to do a cost-benefit analysis of that, as well as start to put some funds aside, capital funds aside for the city, but also working with our federal partners. We're blessed. Congressman Lynch does a tremendous amount of heavy lifting on the funding side of the House on transportation issues, and this is clearly one of them. If you're talking about the main arteries of a peninsula potentially being threatened, he's a partner here, so let's engage him as much as we can while he's in a good position down in DC. Thank you, man. And they're just the Barr Foundation. So what involvement do they have in these meetings, and or people over the Barr Foundation drawing maps as to what they want the city to look like, and then they're stroking the check and they're asking us to follow their plan? Or is it, hey, listen, we think this is an important issue. Here's some funds. You guys sort of do what you guys do best, and let us know if you need any more funds, and we'll try to scrap them together for you. Is that the relationship?
It's actually slightly different. So through the Climate Ready Boston report and study, we identified a series of community priorities and resilience priorities across the city. And so we brought a request to the Barr Foundation saying, these are the priority work, this is the priority work for our neighborhoods, for our communities to accelerate resilience, and we requested those funds. So that's the direction it goes. So it's very informed by community and by our plan that we've laid out with community on what needs to be advanced next in terms of resilience in the city.
And so the partnerships would say Save the Harbor, Save the Bay, and all the waterfront organizations, as well as our partners at, say, DCR at the state level. Is everybody sort of in the loop on the fund, the grants and the expenditures and the resoaces that
So
are sort of being pulled together?
Yeah, so MWRA and DCR are partners on the earmark for the Moakley Park connectors. The Barr grant is very much the city and our community partners. Mm-hmm. So both many of the waterfront community partners that you named, but also neighborhood associations and community development corporations and other CBOs across the city, especially as we look to inland heat island effect and energy resilience. Those are really driven by our understanding of the need in the city and community partners identifying need on the ground.
Yeah. Boston Harbor now, Kathy, so everyone's sort of in the loop on, so they've done a lot of great work in and around the harbor and the harbor islands and the harbor trail, the harbor walk, all those things they're partners of ours in any types of efforts that we undertake to address climate resiliency. I hope that they all have a seat at the table, or at least they're kept abreast of what's going on. Very good. Thank you, Madam Chair. I look forward to working with Allison, and at the appropriate time when there's a schematic available.
Yeah.
I'd like to get my team get a briefing on that.
Very happy to come and brief anytime on especially the interaction between the coastal plans and harbor barriers, and then also this project and how it interacts.
That'd be great. And at some point we need to have a side discussion about the piping plovers.
We do.
That have taken up residence in different pockets of our city and our beaches, which for those that do not know, that they're a protected species, and when that happens, the entire beach gets shut down. So we've had situations not only in the city but across the Commonwealth when the plovers have come in, set up shop, and those beaches are off limits for the duration of sort of just their mating and hatching and season. And in the old, I guess maybe at some point they used to the eggs used to hatch and then they used to leave. Now I think that they find it nice that they stick around a little bit longer. So, but those are concerns because folks have not been able to use the beaches in certain parts of our city, East Boston and South Boston, Dorchester. So I don't know how we're going to address that, but we need to work with the federal government to find a way if we can either once they have the chicks, we can maybe relocate them. It may be some predatory issues around, foxes and coyotes and seagulls and stuff like that preying on them. But that's obviously an issue I know that you're aware of, and that I think we need to work together as a community to try to find out how we can allow folks to continue to have access to our beautiful beaches and our clean water, a lot cleaner today than it was when I was a kid. So we want kids to come to the beach and enjoy recreation and learn how to swim, etc. And we've got a little bit of an impediment, but we need to be sensitive to that species as well. So finding some balance is appropriate.
Sure.
Thank you again, Commissioner, and thank you, Madam Chair, for your indulgence.
Absolutely, Councilor Flaherty. It's just the two of us here, so we got time. I appreciate your questions, particularly Councilor Flaherty, because when we have these grants that come in that they're very specifically place-based, even though they're coming through the Environmental Justice, Resiliency, and Parks Committee, it's really helpful to have somebody who's familiar with the area to kind of ask questions that I wouldn't consider asking just because of the location. So thank you, Councilor Flaherty. So this grant, I'm going to focus my questions on docket 0116 first, is to fund the pre-construction and planning. So can you talk to me a little bit about what the planning process and the planning and design process will look like? You've talked about engaging community. So it's $1.6 million. What are we using? What does that process look like?
Absolutely, Councilor. And some of that will be informed by the planning process that we go through. It'll be, we're expecting 2 to 3 years, and what we understand already, and we won't have to do as part of this grant, is to understand where the flood pathways are coming, specifically sort of what their pathway through the land is in these areas. We also have the extensive work of the existing Moakley Park project that has already gone through a lot of design and engagement. So what we will be looking at is how do we extend that line of protection slightly to the north of the park and slightly to the south of the park, which is crossing into both DCR to the south property and MWRA property to the north, and connecting into the neighborhood.
So this is meant to kind of be an expansion of the Moakley.
Yeah.
So the Moakley Park project is happening,
It
and
is
these
happening,
$0.16 million are to design and pre-plan to expand,
To
right?
extend
so you
the line,
want it to cover
yeah.
more surface area.
Absolutely.
ultimately.
We want to further extend the protection line, because we understand that there's the critical infrastructure in those areas, and also that there are real neighborhood assets. We have Mary Ellen McCormick. We have many other areas that would be behind this line of protection. And so we want to work with the real local community, the folks that live right in this area, as well as the broader neighborhood and communities associations that you've talked about, to talk about how can we continue these lines of protection further out of the park while maintaining the urban realm and enjoyment of the park and transportation and other critical resources. So it's really an extension of a $34 million project for coastal resilience in the core of the park. This is a small, relatively
supplemental grant
to make sure that we're furthering that protection and extending it with state partnership.
Great. And what those protections look like will ultimately be decided
with the
community through a community process.
Absolutely.
So I just want to echo Councilor O'Flaherty's request in terms of what does the community engagement process look like? How can the councilors, I'm a district councilor, and that's not my area. And so I know that Councilor Baker spoke on the floor when this was presented to the city council meeting, and also wanting to have this be a part of the planning, because he has been really involved in the Moakley Park planning. And so just making sure that the South Boston, Dorchester at-large councilors are really involved in moving their constituents to design this.
And Madam Chair, if I may just make, it's a great question, because some of the, where the conflict is, it's with the redesign of the park and the efforts around resiliency with respect to the programming. It's arguably, Moakley's probably, if it's not the most traversed park in our city, it's probably top one or top two. So it's, you got the little leagues, the Babe Ruths, the youth soccer programs, there's a softball league, there's a street hockey league, there's a rugby program, there's a flag football, there's track and field competitions from across the state there. Plus there's the Ollie, which is a daycare before and after school program. So, and in between two public housing developments, the Tierney Center and the Mary Ellen McCormick, as well as directly within a short walking distance to Harbor Point and the things out at Columbia Point. So where it's the leagues, it's the coaches, and feeling like there's, what's going to happen to our league, what's going to happen to our program. Are we still going to have, 4 baseball diamonds? Are we going to have a Babe Ruth? Are we going to have a senior Babe Ruth? What about the football field? What about the tennis court? Like, everyone's sort of clamoring for their little piece of real estate down the park because of the redesign. Is sort of, I guess they're repositioning some fields based on sunrise and sunset and things like that. So it's been a lot to sort of take in and to digest, but there are a number of competing interests. But from the programming standpoint, the community, particularly with our 3 public housing developments all within an earshot, and all of those youth programs and sporting leagues, and even adult leagues down there, they all want to make sure that sort of their little piece of the Moakley Park pie is intact and gets revitalized, but at the same time are conscious of some of those resiliency efforts. So a lot of moving parts, Commissioner, so I know that you've had a front row seat for it, and obviously our role is to make sure that our youth in particular, and as well as our adults, get to continue to use their beloved Moakley Park. And Joe Moakley, as folks know, served some time here on the City Council before we went on to do great things down in DC. So we want to make sure that his memory is honored here, because he was all about bringing people together, and he was all about our youth in the neighborhoods. And he was actually born in public housing. He was born in the Mary Ellen McCormick, where I was born, just across the street. So I know he grew up there as a kid. So in honor of him and his memory and his legacy, we'd like to make sure that that park remains, one of the best and most traversed in the city. Thank you,
Absolutely,
Madam Chair.
Councilor.
Thank you, Councilor Flaherty. I think what's been being very obvious
Yes.
is that the park and the resiliency infrastructure and this addition, what happens when there's a lot of projects and there's a lot of redesign, particularly like that are concentrated in a specific community, is that you get kind of your community members get their antennas up because they want to know. So I'm not surprised that because there are so many moving pieces, everybody kind of wants to make sure that everything is happening properly and that they're maintaining use of the park. So I think that I'm supportive of moving this grant forward, and I think the community process is going to be incredibly important. And so if there's any more information that
Absolutely.
you can give us about what that's going to look like, I would invite it just so that I can share that with my council colleagues, because I think it's going to be a critical part for all of the reasons that Councilor Flaherty said to make sure that.
Absolutely happy to come back and
Yeah,
provide that as we
perfect.
development.
Very
We're going to need to bring the team on board with the grant, and then we'll work to design that, and happy to bring it back to all of you, and would welcome your thoughts and suggestions on who we should specifically be
Great.
adding to that process.
And so for docket 0117, which is the Barr Foundation grant, sorry, I want to go back to 1116 because you said there's a 2-3 year kind of timeline. What's the timeline for Moakley Park? Like, how are the timelines aligning?
We are working carefully to align those timelines, but they are, Moakley Park is a much larger project, and it is for finalizing the grant, the design, and then moving through construction.
Okay.
That will be a many more year process. That grant has been identified for further review by FEMA, so we're hopeful that, which is a very good sign for FEMA grants. So we're hopeful that that will be moving through similar phases of design concurrently with this project. And then when this is done with both the planning, the design, the geotechnical analysis that's going to need to be done to understand what the areas can support in terms of new elements, all of those pieces, we hope to be ready to then be able to move with more federal partnership or state partnership to construction with those two pieces
So the
along
expectation is that
time.
this will be done.
We hope to do
before
them.
You're going from the outside in.
Yeah. Well, actually, what we're hoping to do is align the planning, and then if all goes well, that will give us time to find the construction funding for these elements
Okay.
so that they can all move in a coordinated way together.
So ideally, do you want to move from the center out, from the park
Yeah.
to the neighborhood,
Yeah.
or from the neighborhood towards the park in terms of timeline?
I think honestly, Counselor, we want to move, and we're gonna move whichever. We're gonna make sure that they're carefully
Whatever's ready is gonna
coordinated,
go.
but whatever's ready is going to go because we're very aware that we have 47 miles of coast to protect. So we're going to be moving the projects that can
However
move
fast they
as fast as they can.
Okay, thank you, that's helpful. And so for the Barr Foundation, I know that you said that you submitted a proposal, we were awarded this grant
Yes.
for the Climate Ready Boston. Can you talk a little bit about what the expectations are? Like, what are we reporting on to the Barr Foundation? What is the timeline for that grant, and what are the deliverables?
Sure, it's a 3-year grant and it is primarily for staff support to advance a number of key priorities. So
And when you say staff support,
that
you
would be
mean hiring?
That would fund hiring project managers or continuing to fund existing project managers, because this is a follow-on of a prior grant to do much the same. Within this grant, we identified some existing priority projects that are all identified through Climate Ready Boston. We're following that plan to implement those resilience initiatives. We identified key ones that either needed to be accelerated or to be built out. So for example, one of them is around heat and energy resilience. Last year, through the support of a state municipal vulnerability preparedness grant, we were able to complete a citywide heat plan. So now we have a number of actions to implement from our heat plan. And so we've identified a need to increase energy resilience and heat resilience for vulnerable communities when you look at a combination of energy affordability and the likelihood of blackout or brownout into the future in neighborhoods, especially during a heat emergency. So the plan is to work with some community partners in some of those most vulnerable neighborhoods to find areas that are of critical community priority to build out distributed energy resources. And so what that means is like a microgrid with a battery and solar so that the power stays up and there's cooling in that space where there might not otherwise be cooling, and community can have relief in a space that is important to and identified by community members as a critical area.
Now, there are some organizations who are piloting microgrids in Chinatown, I believe, at the
Absolutely.
city, and that's the project.
This is a parallel project. So
Parallel
that is through ARPA funds.
Okay.
In Chinatown, this would be looking first more in areas in Dorchester where we have known energy resilience challenges, but then also carefully looking throughout the city at what other areas also have those energy resilience challenges. And so piloting the model and then expanding it to those other community areas.
And the hope is that we are, we're, in terms of building resiliency, that at least in our big buildings, our schools, our city buildings, we would have microgrids.
Yeah, that is a hope. But these funds are much more for how do we make sure that community areas, neighborhood areas, in addition to municipal assets, have these resources.
Great. And my last question, the grant is $870,000. You said it was a 3-year grant. Is it $870,000 every year for 3
No.
years, or is it split evenly between 3 years?
It's split across the 3.
Or 3 years, okay. Beautiful. Okay, I have no further questions, Councilor
Okay,
Flaherty.
thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. Commissioner, thank you so much for being here. I think I have all the information that I need. If there's anything between now and the council that comes up in terms of community engagement of what you're envisioning,
Sure.
For really hearing from these communities, please send it my way so that we can include it in the report. But that's all.
Be happy to do so. Thank you for your time,
All right,
Councilor.
thank you, Commissioner. And thank
Thank
you, Councilor Flaherty, for being here. This committee hearing of the Environmental Justice, Resiliency, and Parks Committee is adjourned.